clever. AFL.com.au is the place you'll find Calculating Cal Toomey, the number one man there. He's got an inside trading article that comes up every Thursday, and he joins us to talk about all of the stuff that's happening behind the scenes. So welcome, Calculating.
Good morning, Gary. Good morning, Tim. I enjoyed the training report, Tim. It reminded me a little bit of T-Dollar back in the day. Some of your best work.
That's a very touchy subject.
No, please don't mention that.
T-Dollar there's been a request to bring him back, but I've not seen him yet, but that's another story.
You've knocked it on the head, that's why.
Bailey Smith. Tell me about Bailey Smith and his contract.
Yeah, well, he's a big one at the Dogs to sign up this year, isn't he? I mean, he's a star. He's back tonight for the Bulldogs. Only missed one game in his career. He's out of contract at the end of this year, and AFL.com.au recently, he's very, very keen to stay. Doesn't see himself going anywhere. Now, the interesting part about Bailey Smith for me, guys, I'll throw this one back to you. What's a guy like Bailey Smith worth? And this is the question that the Dogs will have to weigh up in a salary cap that's obviously getting towards the busy end, given they've signed up Jack Macrae to a long-term deal. Caleb Daniel will sign a long-term deal as well as a free agent. They've got Bailey Dale coming out of contract as a free agent. Josh Dunkley's another one out of contract. Tim English is another one. Bailey Smith wants to stay. He will stay. But a player like him who is an emerging midfielder, but then you throw in his marketing value as well. He's the biggest face in the game. What's a player like him worth? For me, he's a $600,000 sort of player, but then his marketing probably throws him up to the $800,000 level.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I guess you got to look at your salary cap and what you can afford. But he would be hard, Gary. He would be one that is really hard to actually put a value on, because as Calculating Cal rightly says, like there's the footy side of it, but then there's the other driver of marketing and promotion and fans to your club as well that you're going to have to consider in all this.
Yeah, no, don't forget, he's a very, very good footballer. So is he? If you're Bailey, it's an interesting one. The two Baileys. I mean, stack them up: Bailey Dale, Bailey Smith. You got one who's unobtrusive sort of halfback flanker who's emerged as an All-Australian, so his value goes through the roof. But would it be anywhere near Bailey Smith? I agree with Cal. I think he's a $650,000-$700,000 a year footballer. It's just then that marketing component that comes into play.
Cal, also Charlie Spargo, he's looking at a new deal as well.
He is. Good news for the Demons. One for you, Gary. I'm sure Demons fans across the country would value what Charlie Spargo does, probably higher than most people who watch the Demons. I think he's internally so highly rated. Out of contract this year, he's into his fifth year. Talks going on at the moment. I think a 3-year deal there will take him through to free agency. So that one's coming through pretty well. And obviously the D's have a couple of big names to sign up this year, and I'm sure they'll quietly tuck away Charlie Spargo, given how well he did last year in that premiership side, playing every game.
A good ball user, doesn't waste the ball. Jack Ginnivan, is he a new deal coming his way?
I'd get in early if I was the Pies on this bloke, because he's on the rise.
He is, isn't he, Tim? And it's been a good story. He was a rookie draft pick in 2020, and the Pies at the moment are looking to sign up members of that 2020 draft class. Of course, they've got a couple of first-rounders that year in Ollie Henry and Jack Macrae's younger brother, Finlay, and then Reece McInnes as well through the Next Generation Academy. Well, Jack Ginnivan on the cusp of an extension there, likely to be 2 years. And as you say, Tim, been a revelation already this year. It was excellent in the win over the Crows. I think an AFL Rising Star nomination is coming his way in coming weeks too. So he's been terrific. Small forward who's set apart, and got himself into that forward group under Craig Macrae and offers them something a little bit different. So good news there on the horizon for the Pies and Jack Ginnivan.
Talking to Calculating Cal Toomey from AFL.com.au. Inside Trading is live. And Justin McInerney, I like this young fella. And he might be another one of these Sydney Swan players that somebody picks off, I think, down the track.
Down the track, yes, maybe, but not at the moment. Tim, he's out of contract this year. He will stay there at the Swans. He'll follow on from Logan McDonald's recent re-signing. Of course, Isaac Heaney signed a big, mega 6-year deal as a free agent recently, but Justin McInerney's told Sarah Ollie, my colleague at AFL.com, he's very, very keen to stay, and that's getting pretty close too. So he's out at the moment with that knee injury, so he missed the Buddy 1000, but would be one of the first picks inside that team because of his speed and pace that he brings to their lineup, and has been a bit of a wild card over the last couple of years. So I remember watching him as a draftee coming through, and he was a late bloomer there for Northern Knights, and obviously a Victorian boy who would attract some interest, but expected to stay there at the Swans. They don't lose too many, do they, Tim?
No, they don't, but they've had a couple picked off in the last couple of years. Dawson's gone to the Adelaide Crows and Hewitt's gone to Carlton.
Yeah, I'm not sure Hewitt was as big a loss for them in their books. I mean, they were keen to keep him to a degree, but not at that price, given their salary cap. Dawson definitely was one. And they've got a salary cap too that they have to manage pretty carefully over the next couple of years. Of course, Buddy Franklin's deal coming out of contract at the end of this year, but they've got Cal Mills coming out next year. Tom Papley's hitting free agency pretty soon. And they know that obviously Heaney re-signed. They've got some free agents as well this year in Cunningham and Jake Lloyd. So there's a bit of deals to go on there, but they've got some cap to manoeuvre.
Homework for you calculating for next week. Give us 5 targets of the sort of George Hewitt variety that is either playing or just outside the team that may be of great value to someone else. And that's not to denigrate Sydney in any way. As you say, they've got a midfield that's stacked, so they can afford to. But there must be 5 players out there that you've got an eye on that other clubs might be interested in.
Yep, no worries, Gary. I'll note that one down. The big one is, I think, Angus Brayshaw at this point. What can he do as an inside midfielder if he wants to do that somewhere? And he's probably not going to get that gig at the Demons at the moment and a free agent. That's where the value comes in for these guys. Carlton didn't have to give up anything for George Hewitt other than salary cap space. So it meant that they could go and use their first pick on Adam Chera. So it's a double act, isn't it?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. And when I say no to Angus Brayshaw, not just the Melbourne angle, but I'm talking about players that you don't have to give the world up for, who can come in and have an impact pretty much straight away, which Hewitt seems to be doing right now.
That's right. And there's players out there that you think, and contracts don't mean too much anymore, do they? Anymore, Gary. There's opportunity for clubs to pick off some guys who might be contracted or might be just hitting their straps. So I'll get back to you on the 5 for next week.
You've got a week. You've got a week calculating, and there's a bit of just Tom Green's name just keeps getting raised up. I don't know if it's Richmond supporters are forever hopeful that the connection there can be rejoined. But is there any truth in any of this sort of rumouring that's going around Tom Green and Richmond?
Well, he's got another year to go on his contract, and as I said just before, contracts don't always mean anything if club and player are happy to move. But I don't see them moving him at this point. The one to watch, of course, at the Giants is Tim Taranto, who's out of contract this year, and that's where a discussion will be had on where he's playing, what inside midfielder or midfielder do the Giants have to shed from a salary cap point of view this year. And clubs will come very hard for Tim Taranto, and he's a Victorian boy, of course. He loves Sydney. He's a heart and soul player up there, just played his 100th game. But there's no doubt that with potential full-time midfield roles available elsewhere, what offer or opportunity does that present in his mind? I think that'd be an interesting one, depending on what role he plays this year. But, that one will be one to follow over the next coming months, I think, more so than Green this year at least.
Quick one before we let you go, Nab. League starts this week. Players will emerge, and you know them better than anyone. But father-sons are going to stick their heads up in the next few days, few weeks, and gain plenty of attention.
Absolutely. NAB League back on the weekend. If you're in Melbourne and keen to watch a game of footy, go down to Sandringham Dragons v the Oakleigh Chargers on Sunday at Moorabbin, because there's some father-sons running around there. That game might provide about 15 players who get drafted at the end of the year. So there's stacks of talent out there. One of them, who's shown some flashy signs over the recent couple of weeks in the practice games, and I'm getting great reports around, is Alwyn Davey Jr. So the father-son prospect there, exactly right. He's got absolute wheels. His twin brother Jaden won't be playing this year. He's out with a knee reconstruction. But Alwyn Davey Jr., obviously tied to the Bombers as a father-son prospect. Lots of hype around him, and he's done some exciting things already. So keep an eye out on him if you're a Bombers fan.
You have been magnificent calculating. Go off into the day. Enjoy the weekend.